Welcome to Roaming with Restless Women, real talk with wise, dynamic women leaders. I'm Julie Noonan, your host, CEO, and founder of Intuitive Wisdom Coaching, and I'm living my dream life. I live and work in my RV, coaching senior women leaders as they navigate corporate politics, family drama, and personal goals to live their own dream lives. These women are restless. They are never done seeking new opportunities, learning, and ways to create value in the world. If you'd like to apply to be a guest, stick around to the end of the show and I'll let you know how. So let's go. Welcome to this episode of Roaming with Restless Women. Today, I'm pleased to invite Victoria for an inspiring session. And she is an inspiring speaker. She combines her 25 years of academic and real-world executive presence and experience to guide leaders and teams toward achieving work-life harmony. With a PhD in psychology and an MBA from UC Berkeley, Victoria has a formidable background in both the psychological and strategic dimensions of leadership. Her career trajectory includes significant roles in technology and innovation industries, where as an executive, she spearheaded innovative projects and navigated disruptive technologies. Victoria is on a mission to end burnout and inspire high-achieving leaders and teams to create work-life harmony and love so that companies can retain and engage employees. Welcome, Victoria.
Thank you, Jen. I'm so happy to be here.
And so, of course, the first thing I'm going to ask you is, why did you change it from work-life balance to work-life harmony? I love that.
Yes, so thank you so much for noticing this. Yes, I do prefer harmony. The reason is that when we talk about balance, it always felt like a dichotomy, right? So you can either have work or life, and then you kind of balance it somehow. But when we speak about harmony, first of all, there are more elements that go into that harmony and the sense of flourishing that we have. This is not just work or life, work is also life and life is also work. So there are
Yes.
all these other elements that go into that feeling of an emotion of harmony and a state of harmony. This is your purpose, this is your financial stability, your vitality and health, your relationships with your employees, with your loved ones, with your community at large. So all these elements that go together. And the other thing is that it's really up to you how you combine these elements. And, one day it's much more important to spend time with the family, and another day is much more important to stay longer at work and complete that project. But you're in control. So that's why it's not just, well, put this on this scale, this on that scale, and then weigh it out. It's really more of a dynamic dance between all these different parts of our multidimensional personalities.
I love that. I absolutely love it. And I love the fact that, um, you know, you emphasize the fact that we can't separate out one or the other. There's no very specific percentage. It changes just like everything else in our life, and it goes up and down. And how you have that mix changes over your life. So thank you for that. I'm glad you renamed it. So we'll start with a little bit of tell me a little bit about yourself. So, for instance, I hear an accent. I don't know where you're originally from or where is, I'm assuming that English might be a second language. So, why don't you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about yourself, your life, and how you started in your career?
Yes, it's interesting because the question, where are you from, is usually kind of a small talk question, right? So it's like, well, what's your name? Where are you from? And when people ask me where you're from, I'm just like, let me take a deep breath. So let me tell you my life story, right? Because like the whole life story in that question. I was born in Russia. Yes, I was
Okay.
born in Russia. I grew up in Kazakhstan.
Okay.
And then I moved to Silicon Valley, to California, about 25 years ago. Yeah, so most of my career and most of my adult life, I really lived in California.
Very nice. Excellent. So, what was your first career? So, I know you have the PhD in psychology
Mhm,
and your MBA. So, tell me a little bit about that part, how you decided what you
mhm.
wanted to do.
Well, out of high school, I really wanted to pursue psychology. I thought I found my passion. This is what I want to do. I'm interested in people, how they think, what motivates them. And I decided to pursue that career. So I went ahead and I got my bachelor in psychology, my master's in psychology, my PhD in psychology. And then I started counseling. I did one-on-one counseling. And that lasted for about a year. And at the end of the year, I said, oh, I made the mistake. I followed my passion, but I made a mistake. This is not, I cannot take one more day of that.
Mm-hmm.
So now I know that that's what I experienced was really my first burnout. And then I looked at my career and I said, well, what can I do with all this, knowledge and all this mastery in psychology? What else can I do? And I started looking at the corporate career, and I figured that marketing would be a nice transition point into the corporate world. So that's what I did. And then, so I went ahead and started doing some jobs in high tech industry, product marketing, marketing analysis, market research, and so on and so forth. But what happened? What do you think happened 3 years down the road?
You got laid
I
off?
looked, yeah, no, really. I
Oh,
looked at that. I was
wow.
like, I made another mistake.
Oh, no.
So I thought that I really wanted to do marketing, but maybe this is the wrong industry. So let me switch industries. Let me go from that, very technical industry for a less technical industry, and so on and so forth. So this is what happened. And until I actually realized that no matter how much I change my external circumstances, whether it's a job, whether it's a company, whether it's an industry, whether it's a position, so on and so forth, until I actually go through the internal mastery of the skills and the mindsets and the practices to have a more sustainable relationship again with all these different parts that we have with the job, with the purpose, with the finances, with the relationship. I will continue the same cycle. I will always think that this is the job, this is the boss, it's the manager, it's the industry, and so on and so forth. So it's really that's how I realized that a lot of controls that I have over my life and how I create my life, they're really internal mindsets and those shifts. Mhm.
Absolutely. So, have you found your dream job?
Well, I now I'm really following my passion again. So I'm on
Okay.
a mission to help high achievers to create that life of harmony, to really find a good relationship between success and happiness. And it's not just on the personal level. So obviously, any leadership really starts with self-leadership. It's nice to
Yes.
know, but it's also on company levels, on how we build teams and how we manage teams and how we lead those teams.
Hmm.
So, because this burnout, right, so that we're talking about, this is real. I mean, this is not a it is a personal problem, yes. So I'm not happy, right? But on the corporate level, it
Yeah.
actually has real consequences, real monetary consequences when you have a workforce that's not motivated, that's not very productive, that's skeptical, negative, and so on and so forth. So there are lots of elements that go into that. This is not just, oh, this is the mental health kind of, territory. No, there are implications on the sustainability and health of the organization as well.
So I'm assuming that you're very happy to see the mental health movement in corporations over the last, particularly since COVID. I think COVID really ripped the band-aid off a lot of things that needed to be done that would have taken longer had COVID not forced it. So, what are you seeing as you work with your clients in these large companies as far as rate of burnout, and how are you helping?
Yeah, so a lot of this is really, the work that we do is really directed toward leadership. So
Yeah.
we figure that this is how the change starts, right? So usually, as high achievers, these are people who are very action oriented, right? So when they identify the problem, they're all in to find a solution. And those changes on a personal level, on the leadership level, again, they trickle down throughout the organization because leaders become those role models for other people to follow. So as you mentioned, I'm very happy to see that movement toward kind of balance and mental health within the organizations. And I, realized that again, because it's obvious, right? So that we show up as the whole person. We don't show up as just one role. It's like, I'm here to do my product marketing. I'm
Hmm.
here to do my product management. We show up as a whole person, and how we show up within the organization, the team, that's how we're going to contribute into the organization.
Truth, and that is the truth. So tell me a little bit about some of the things that you have heard from some of your clients as far as the most critical aspects of burnout. How are they seeing that play out in reality?
Well, again, in the corporate setting, I think one of the things that we can see is really lack of motivation. So I think that's probably the best way to describe how we can kind of see the early signs of the burnout within the organization. If people are not motivated, if they're skeptical, I think one of the ways where we start noticing is the culture of negativity, right? So when you see people complaining a lot, that's for any manager and any leader to notice and say, oh, maybe there are more signs there. So I would say, watch out for that negativity, the complaining, go and listen around water coolers what people are talking about. If you see a lot of complaints during the meetings, right? So the corporate meetings,
Mm-hmm.
team meetings, if you notice the negativity and the complaining, and kind of focusing on the problems instead of the solutions, that will be a sign where you might say, well, there's something in the culture that doesn't allow people to, feel positive about, contribution, about the health of the organization. Appreciation is another one, right? So if people are don't feel appreciated, that impacts the productivity as well. So, but I think complaining is one of those red flags that I would really watch out for.
And do you use any particular employee engagement assessment or any particular tools when you go into an organization to gauge kind of where they are?
Well, we work mostly with leadership, right? And a lot of, again,
Mm-hmm.
programs that we have, they're kind of leadership skills and self-leadership skills. One of the interesting areas that I think we have not seen before is really an impact of artificial intelligence on the organizations. So
Yeah.
now that we are really, I wouldn't say in the middle, but I say kind of in the beginning of a fundamental transition and transformation on the
Yes.
way we work and the way we manage. And that transformation is being triggered by artificial intelligence on so many different levels. To the topic of our conversation here is emotional intelligence is going to become a much more important skill for leaders to really manage their people. So employees are changing, the work is changing. A lot of those tasks we're talking about, this is just my little role, and I'm going to spend that role from 9 to 5. These
Mm-hmm.
tasks are going to be automated. So the employees are also transitioning into kind of more autonomous and more independent mode. And as a leader, you need to have a completely different set of skills to manage people like that. So these programs are probably the most important ones. I think, being in Silicon Valley, again, that's what we see currently. How
Yeah.
those changes are really pushing so many other changes on so many different directions. So I really like to say that, well, it's interesting but I think that artificial intelligence will really allow us to be better humans.
Well, yes, I think so as well. It's going to be amazing to watch the evolution of that. One of the things that the leaders that I coach consistently tell me is, and I coach the more senior in their career, meaning, they're old like me. They have a fear of becoming obsolete because they can't keep up with this stuff. And
Hmm.
one of the things that has come out of that for me is that has been very, very helpful for a lot of people is pairing, a more senior level person up with a younger person, not for mentoring down from top down, but also mentoring both ways,
Hmm.
so that the executive or the leader has someone that they can go to that's not their grandchild, to say, hey, without repercussion, hey, I don't understand this. Can you explain it to me? The social media, how do I get involved with that? What's the best way? What is Chat GPT? What is Claude? What is Gemini? How can I use it in my work? Can you give me some suggestions? Because there's one thing about adults, they learn what they need when they need it, and it has to have a practical application. So they're not, most of us don't have time to just explore explore something we're curious about. And that's probably
Mm-hmm.
not going to be at the top of my list to be curious about.
Hmm.
So I found that reverse mentoring situation can really help. We
I can
have,
see how this happens. This is a really
yeah,
nice way of putting this. I can see how this helps, especially on the technical level, right? So, like the
yes.
skills, productivity tools, the things that the younger generation grew up with. So it's so
Hmm.
natural for them to communicate, right? So communicate through chat, using those, little skills and apps and putting them together seamlessly. Then for people who probably did not grow up with that. And I can also see how it works the other way because the younger generation doesn't have that wisdom, right, of managing and really people management and all the dynamics and all the emotional intelligence that comes with that. Yeah.
Ex- exactly. And I know for a fact that the younger generation is hungry for mentorship. They're hungry for being able to, in a psychologically safe way, learn and grow and continue to grow. They're a very curious generation. I love it. I love all of them. So tell me, what is one value that you feel has guided your career? That one thing that no matter what job you've held or what mistake you've made, what is that one thing that you can look back over your career so far and say, this is the thing that hooks it all together, the thing that I love the most?
Well, I think it really a drive for learning and growth. If I look at me, I changed careers so many times, but I think like every time it's really, oh, what else can I learn, right? So how else can I grow? And I that
Mm-hmm.
I find this a really interesting and kind of positive and effective attitude. And this is something that again we talk about in our programs too, especially being in Silicon Valley, right? So everything is
Oh, I'm
changing so
sure.
much.
Yeah.
Once you start dealing with innovations and disruptive technologies, how do you adjust? But it's not even adjust and adapt. It's really, oh, how do I lean in, right? So how do I actually get excited about all those new things? One more thing
Yes.
to learn, one more page to turn, one more step to climb up the stairs. So I think
Right.
that's really nice. And we talk about, and a lot of people talk about kind of growth mindset. So I think it's a big part of that growth mindset as well that helps you keep flexible and adaptable and excited, pretty much, excited about changes in life.
Right. I think one of my guests one time said, I've had the privilege to reinvent myself multiple times. And I loved that because it's true. We don't have to, and there's so much pressure, I think, at least when I was getting ready to go into the workforce and go into college and all that, there's a lot of pressure to already have decided what you wanted to do for the rest of your life. I don't know
Yes.
of anyone of my peers who has had the same job, or even the same kind of job from the very beginning. Very few of us. Most of us get in there, either make a mistake or they say there's got to be more to this, or what else can I do? Just out of
Hmm.
sheer curiosity and the growth mindset, like you said. If you want to keep learning and growing, what
Yeah.
better way than to figure out how to
Hmm.
do something different,
I also
right?
find, yeah, so I also find that it's useful to frame these conversations around the principle of values, right? So, what is the value that I contribute? What's the unique value that I can contribute in this work? That's one side of it. And the other side of it is what is the value that I want to contribute? So, between these two, there's a sea of possibilities, right? To create a career path, to create a life, to create a kind of a setting that makes you the most productive and the most happy and harmonious.
One of the things that I love that you brought up, values. One of the things that is at the foundation of my coaching is value, and not adding value, but creating value. So, how do we, and I think that that's the purpose of life on earth, is for us to come and create value for yourself and everyone else, not destroy. So, I love that you brought that up because it's exactly right. How can I add? It's always adding, not taking away, I think.
Mhm.
So, what do you find is the most challenging thing about being a senior woman, a senior leader woman in a leadership position, and owning a company?
Wow. Now you startled me with this question.
Oh,
What is the,
sorry. Take your time.
where do I start?
Oh,
Yes,
you're
where do I
fine.
start? Yes. So I do think that, keeping in line with that growth, right? So that's one thing. The other one, and I, find myself going back to this more and more often now, well, for myself, but also for people we, work with, is really raising a bar of what's the norm, right? So a lot of us, again, personally, a lot of us, we kind of agree to this status quo. It's like, I'm not really, particularly unhappy or unproductive, but I'm
Mhm.
not particularly happy or productive. If somebody asks me, like, how are you doing? And I would say, same day, different days, same things. So I think that a lot of us, we tend to accept that as a norm. So for me, it's really kind of keeping in mind the attitude is like, no, the let's raise the bar. So the norm, our baseline should be that state of flourishing when I feel vitality, when I feel vibrant, if the when the colors around me are so bright, right? So when I feel happy, when I feel harmony and excited and fulfilled and so on and so forth, that's the norm. That's where we need to start from. Not like, oh, it's okay. I settled on something that's okay. No, let's raise the bar. Let's do it this way.
I love those words of wisdom. You're right on target with that. So, what is the biggest, you mentioned making mistakes, okay? What is the
Mhm.
biggest lesson learned that you have had over your career?
Well, making mistakes is part of the learning journey. So, especially again, being in Silicon Valley, looking at innovations and how you move forward in innovation, creating that new value and adding that value, you cannot escape mistakes. And that's okay to be open to them and learn lessons from them. So that's probably what I want to say. So it's not really like we used to frame it as a failure. Yes, there is at some point there is, yes, you had the idea and the
Hmm.
idea didn't work out, right? Maybe on that level it is the idea failed, but you didn't fail. You grew throughout the experience. You took your lessons from there. You learned, you became wiser, you became smarter, right? You became again smart. You became better out of this. So I think that's kind of learning these lessons out of those failures and having no regrets, right? So when you have that attitude, it's really hard to regret anything because there is a huge amount of learnings that came through that in your life experience that
Hmm.
you have now and you apply going forward.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. So, I have three questions that I end every episode with. Before I get to those, do you have any words of wisdom that you want to make sure we hear?
Mm. Well, I think that I want to reiterate one more time. So let's raise the bar. Let's look at that flourishing state. Let's have our flourishing state as a baseline in life and not settle for less than that.
Love it. Okay. So I will have you close your eyes for just a moment, and I'm going to describe the picture. I'm going to say two words, and I want you to describe the picture that appears in your mind when I say
Mhm.
those two words. Wise woman. Open your
You want
eyes
me to
and tell
describe a
me.
picture? You want to
Yeah,
describe a picture?
yeah,
So somehow I see kind of like a healer, I want to say some native, indigenous, lady in her more mature years and with a healing capabilities.
very nice. And second to the last question, where do you like to roam?
Well, Oh, where do I like to roam? I travel a lot, so that's my yeah, so that's my escape. I went to so many different countries, so many different places. One area that I still want to explore is Latin America, so that's
Mm,
my next place to roam.
very cool. And what makes you restless in a good way?
Learning more things, experiencing new areas, meeting new people, different cultures, and different perspectives.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for allowing me to interview you. I think you're brilliant and marvelous. How do I get to you? How do they reach you if they wish to speak again?
The easiest way is to find me on LinkedIn, Victoria Mensch. Just look me up, and there is a way to reach out to me. We can chat
Mhm.
more about the programs, and I post a lot of content there as well, along the lines of what we're talking about here today.
That's tremendous. Thank you so much, Victoria. I appreciate your being on. And folks, take advantage of the show notes where you'll see the links to Victoria's LinkedIn page. Thank you,
Thank you very much,
Victoria.
Julie. Thank you.